Okay, so in this part of our series, we need to talk about one of the most important hooks. I know, again, something important, right? Yeah, so there is a hook which is called the reducer hook, use reducer. And I'm going to show you how you can use it and what's the benefit of using a use reducer hook instead of use state hook and where you should not use it. I mean, there is a general guideline by React, like why you should use reduce instead of use count, so use state. But I have my own preferences. But let's see the example first, right? So we have this component which is has a count, a setter function. We're doing some clicking events here, and then this handle change will update it. So if I change it, let's say it's you can see the value is changing here if I click it, which is good. Simple example, right? It's always good to learn from the basics. Now, what we can do some changes. We can convert this component so that instead of use state, it uses the use reducer hook. So let's import that. Let's import the use reducer. And the first thing you'll see that is complaining. The use reducer is complaining that it should expect 2 to 3 arguments but got one. We're just passing it one. What we need to do is we need to send it a function. It expects a reducer function. We call it reducer, not use reducer, just reducer because we don't have to define it here. So it's just trying to find it. So now, right now, we have this. Let me create a reducer definition. Reducer and let's save it. So now we have our reducer function, which is going to be passed to this use reducer as first argument, and second will be the initial value, which will remain zero. So what is a reducer function? Like, let's talk about that. Um, Reducer, you can say it reduces a value. Reduces a value to what? Let's say you have uh, a function and you have, let's say, an array 1 2 3 4 and 5, right? Simple array. And I want you to write a function which gives the sum of this array. I think the sum of this array will be 5 plus 4 9 12 15, right? It should be 15. My math is correct. Now we need a function. You can use for loop, right? You can just loop through it and make a sum variable, and then as you loop through it, you can store that to that sum, and it will count at the end, and it will give you some. You can do that way. But what if you don't want to use the for loop? I mean, the condition is you should not use the for loop. So how can you do that? So let me show you some examples. So let's paste it here. Now let me comment that out. So this is just a comment, right? I'm going to remove that. So we have this sum where we in the numbers, let's comment that out as well. So we have this numbers array, right? Number array has some values. We're doing reduce, numbers dot reduce. We have, because number is an array, we have this inbuilt method reduce, which we can use. So when you apply that, it accepts two parameter, accumulator and current value. So current value, you can give it any value, like usually we give it 0, and accumulator is nothing, which is just the sum of previous values, and at the end you get the sum. So here you can see we are giving it a initial value of 0, and accumulator is just doing the accumulation, and at the end you get the 15. So why I'm teaching you that? Maybe you feel like, oh man, this is so confusing, why are we using reduce function? We can easily use the for loop, but this is sometimes very useful where you don't want to do for loop, right? So this is just another way of doing things, reducing thing to one single value. And because we have this kind of reduced functionality, so React was like, why don't we give you that, so that if you have certain conditions, you can choose like which conditions apply, and based on that you can update your state. And if you didn't get anything, that's okay. Let me remove that code. This is just to show you like what a reduce method does in JavaScript. But let me do some changes. So instead of set count, let's make it call it dispatch. We get this dispatch from our use reducer, and if we hover it, it is an action. You can consider it like a messenger. And in dispatch, what you do, instead of count.1, you pass it a type, and the type is increment. Now you'll be like, what's happening here? What is this type thing here? Just stay with me. I'll show you why we use type and what's the purpose of it. So this reduce accepts two things: state and action. And inside this, we can create a switch statement. We can also use if else, but the general rule is to use switch because it's easier. I'll show you why it's easier. So we create a switch statement based on action.type, and inside that we have our case. So this is action.type, and type here is increment. Now you feel like, okay, something is going on here. So for the first thing, let's say increment. If the action.type is increment, what we do return count plus 1. And because our count definition is below it, so it's not finding it, let me put count here and then come here. Good. And then what I can do, I can do the default case, because in switch case we have default, and we can just return the count. If you are not sure why it's complaining, I think my count was fine. I didn't need to do that. But why was complaining? Let me see. Okay, we'll fix the types later on. So what we did here, so we have now this switch statement, and we have our reducer function, right? So if I go here, if I try to change it, it's not working because cannot access count before initialization. Why I am sorry, my bad. Why I'm using count? I should use state. State was the argument, not count. So sorry, that was my bad. So see, it's been a long time I have written down as use reducer hook. So I'm a little rusty, but at least I found the issue. So this is what was happening. I was passing count because I was thinking count, right? But I didn't see. I'm not passing count. I'm just passing state, which could be anything. Now, what we can do, we know our state. So, question for you: what will be the type of state? Give it like thought about, think about it. Give yourself a few seconds. And if you can't figure it out, it's pretty easy because state in our case is a number because we're passing zero here, right? So count is zero. So state. What will be the action? Action is here. This is our action. So let's create a type action. It will be easy for us. Type action, and let's give it it will be of type string, and we can save it and give it up. Copy that and paste it here, and instead of making it type, let's make it interface. That's better because this is an interface now, not type. This you can easily put as type. But now we have action, which is of type string, and this is a type of string. Pretty easy, I would say. I know that there are few things I'm doing this after so long, so I was a little rusty, but let's see if this works. Yeah, this works. Now, why we did all these changes? See, when you use the use state hook, there are cases when you use it, you'll know that sometimes use state, because it's asynchronous, like you will see like your count variable. I'm just giving example, or something, your state will not sync properly. Like you click it 3 times and it will only update 2. Just giving example. So because of that, if you want to make your code more like has like some direction, I think you should use the use reducer hook. I know previously we had like few lines of code and now we have like so much, but this is like it's so easy to find errors. Like I was struggling. Like I was like, okay, why I'm putting count or whatever. Like I was struggling, but I know like where I'm wrong. I was like, okay, count is declared here. Why I'm using okay, state is what I should have, right? So this is more, I would say, more explicit. Like everything is there, so you can see like what's happening. And let's say you want to create another type. Let's say you want to let's just give an example, handle change decrement, right? So let me copy this, paste it here, and give it a name of decrement. And instead of passing a type of increment, let's pass a type of decrement, and then copy that, paste it here, save it, and copy this, paste it here. Now save it, go back to, I don't want to open the WhatsApp, right? If I refresh it, and they're both increasing. Funny thing, I make a mistake again? Let's debug that. Oh, I love debugging. Okay, oh, that's why I said. Now if I do -1, go back here, come here, and maybe I just give it a different name. It's just uh, l- just give it a random name, right? Just don't. Uh, yeah, just refresh it, change it, and yeah, it's going minus plus. So see, what I was doing, I was both of them was getting +1. So it was so easy for me to go. Okay, I can track. I'm clicking here. This functions is working on the dispatch, sending this action. Let's say, okay, this is where the error is because my first chance was that maybe I'm passing the same function name, but I'm not. I was not passing it right. So that's why like you should use the reducer hook. Uh, this is one of the example. One of the common example, one of the common uh, areas where you can use it. Let's say you have a theme switcher, right? Light to dark, dark to light. Maybe we can create some example for that as well to understand use reducer hook better. Uh, but that was the gist of use reducer. I know it takes a little bit of time even for me because it's been a long time I wrote the reducer hooks. But this is what like this is how you should use it. And yeah, I'll see you in the next tutorial.